Welcome to Marathon Champions, the podcast where running legends Benji Durden, Bill Rogers, and Ron Tabb share their timeless wisdom on marathon training and inspire listeners with their wealth of experience. These champions continue to impact the running world today.
Hey, Nancy. Gang's all here.
Hey, how are you, Ron?
Nice. I'm doing well, thank you. But you know what? We have never met in person, I don't believe.
I don't think we have either. I'm glad you said that because I don't think we have.
Yeah, I'm almost sure.
Maybe we did. Trying to think.
I cannot remember us ever meeting anywhere.
Obviously, I know you.
Yeah, we know each other from running, but it's crazy that we you think about all what we have in common, and we've never had the opportunity to meet in person. And so
exactly,
this will be fun then.
Yeah.
So I had a question. It's going over your bio and your resume, and I'm looking. I'm going, how wonderful it would have been to be coached by Rod Dixon. How did that all come about?
Well, it wasn't actually Rod. It was actually his brother, John. So, So why don't we start back? Should I start back at the beginning?
Sure.
Yeah, we can get up to that. So, I didn't start running till I was 25. I was very, athletic, was a springboard diver and a skier and, did all the sports. But I started running when I was 25 because everybody was kind of running at that time, right? In the mid 70s, everybody was starting to run. So I decided to run a marathon with a friend of my husband's, and I was out on the beach in Santa Cruz running, and this kind of weird guy started following me. A runner started following me, and I thought he was a little bit odd. And finally he said, you could be a great runner. I'm a running coach, and you could be a great runner. Why don't you come run with me? And that was Gary Gettle. And so that was the spring. Let's see, I'm trying to think when that started. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I think I'd run a marathon before that. I ran Avenue of the Giants way back when I first started running. I wanted to say I'd.
Yeah, 1980, you ran Avenue of the Giants.
Yeah. And so I ran 3:20, qualified from Boston, had no interest in ever running again. I just that was a, check it off the list kind of life experience. But then I was also involved at the same time at Stanford University, raising money for women's athletic scholarships. So I got to know Sissy Hop and Kim Schnurfile and some other women. And there was a little road race series at Stanford that fall where if you won your age group or whatever, if you won, you got like a pair of socks. So I kept running and doing that because I won a pair of socks. That was cool. I won't go back to, I guess I should start about my very first road race was, I think 1979, my group of Stanford football players put on a race that went from a bar in Portola Valley to a bar in Woodside, a bar in Woodside to a bar in Portola Valley, our local, and you got a free pitcher of beer at the finish line. And it was Jim Plunkett and a bunch of other guys that I knew. And so that was my very first road race. And I finished second to Nancy, and I forget what her name was then, but it was Steve Prefontaine's old girlfriend. And she won, and I finished second. And so that was kind of fun. And then I decided to run the Avenue of the Giants marathon. So I trained for that. And then I was retired from running. I had no interest. But then they had these little road races where I started winning socks. And so I kind of kept at it. And then I was out on the beach when Gary Gettleman saw me running and said, why don't you come train with my group? And we ended up having, with that group, I think we had 8 or 10 qualify for the 84 trials. 8 or 10 women qualified for the 84 trials. And he had the New Zealand training program, Igloy, whatever his name was, where you do just thousands of repeats of things.
Yeah, everything was done by intervals and all kinds of different paces in the intervals. And
yes,
that was an Igloy approach. Yeah,
we did a whole bunch of run the straights, jog the, like 10 miles of run the straights, jog the curve, or 10-mile things like that. A lot of hill repeats.
Was this on the track?
Yeah, a lot of it was on the track.
10 miles on the track.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it was all I knew, and I had a real job, and I was doing all the regular things. So in 1982, I decided, I'd started training with him probably sometime in 1981 would be my guess. And so I started training with him in 1982. And about a month later was Beta Breakers, and I ran Beta Breakers and finished second to Lori Binder. And so that was when I knew, maybe I could be okay at this. It never occurred to me I could be really good at it, but I thought, oh, this is fun. I'll stick with this for a while. And then I ran the 82 San Francisco Marathon and won. My husband tells a funny story because he was on a rugby tour, and they arrived home the day of the San Francisco Marathon, and he gets off the airplane and he sees me on the television screen winning the marathon. And that's when I started I started writing to race directors to see if I could get into events. And I think I may have gone to Peachtree that year. I probably paid for myself. But that's when it all started being really, really fun and exciting. And Gary coached me through the trials in 84. It never, ever, ever occurred to me I could make the Olympic team. Not in 1,000 did I think. I just thought, I'm going to run in the Olympic trials. And that's going to be so exciting because I'm the third of 4 girls. My dad was a big sports buff, and we went to the Olympics as fans, as spectators. That was our family vacation. So my dad actually went to 32. He was in Berlin in 36 as a spectator. He went to the 60 winter, 68 summer. My high school wouldn't let me out to go to the 68 games. My folks wanted to take me. They said I'd fail whatever year that was. But as a family, we went to 72 and 76, skipped 80, obviously. So I thought for my dad, wouldn't it be great if I qualified for the Olympic trial? And so I ran in the Olympic trials. I didn't have a great race. I figured out later that I'd had a stress fracture. I felt kind of lousy early on in the race, which was sort of a surprise. And I think had I thought I could make the Olympic team, I sure would have been a lot closer to the front. I'm not saying I would have made the Olympic team, but I was in 44th place at the half and finished up 7th. And so, but at that point, I just thought, okay, I'm done with running. I've been married 8 years at that point. It's 84. I'm 30 years old, which, in those days was a little bit on the older side for running. And I thought, okay, I'm just gonna, hang it up now. We're going to start a family, all of that. But there was something that made me think I just wasn't ready to retire at that point. And I remember so Gary was still coaching me. But I had met Rod Dixon. We'll get back to in 1983. And that's a whole story in itself. So let me tell you about meeting Rod. So 1983, first time I ever got a call from a race director offering me appearance fees. It was Terry Robbins, now Terry Tiffany, at Beta Breakers. And she called me up and said, we'd like to give you a little bit of money to come back to the race. And I'm going, oh, sure. Okay, great. And then she calls me up a couple weeks later and she says, I have a huge favor to ask. Rod Dixon is staying at my apartment in Menlo Park. It was like 3 blocks from my house. Could you take him out for a run? And this is 1983 when he was winning everything. I mean, he won every race I think he entered that year. And I said yes, but I'm in a full-on panic. And it's like the Wednesday before Beta Break. And so I take him out on this bike trail. I'm trying to think, where can I run that I can send him ahead so that I'm not holding him up. And so we're out on this bike path, and that my perception is, I am running like full out. This is like a race. I don't want to hold him up. And his perception, which he told me later, was, wow, who is this girl? Because I've never seen her before, and boy, can she run. But it's because I was running like full out. Anyway, Rod went on to win Beta Breakers that year. I was second. I was racing all that summer, in various things. So I kept seeing him from time to time. But at the start of the 83 New York City Marathon, we're all warming up we're inside that gym that you used to go into. I don't know if they still do that, where you stay warm and stretching.
Yeah.
And Rod's with somebody from the New York Times, and he goes, Nance, come over. And he says to whoever the reporter was, he goes, this woman's good. You watch for this woman. She's going to be great. And I had a good race that year. I think that was the year I was first American and fifth, I think, that year. And we just hit it off, and we became friends. And when he wanted to relocate to California, he moved in with my husband and me in 85 or 86, something like that. So Rod lived with us off and on for at least a decade while he was based in the States. And he's actually godfather to our son. And he and I would have these fabulous, I still run a route it's my now really long run that I call the Dixie, which is the route that he and I used to take all the time. So we get to 84. I'm at the Olympics as a spectator. And I had lunch with Rod and his brother, John, who had coached Rod his whole life. And I met, we hit it off. It was nice. I had a moment of clarity with, earlier in the year with Gary Gettleman, where I was down in Arizona at that Runner's Den race. Remember that? And I won it.
Yeah.
But I was sure I was going to break 34 minutes, and I didn't. And I was really angry that I hadn't. It was one of the few times I remember being really, really, really disappointed after a race. And Gary said to me, well, you may never break 34. And I just thought, okay, I need a new coach. So I asked John Dixon to coach. And at that lunch we had at the Olympics in 84. And I was just looking through, getting ready for this. I was looking through, this is pre-internet, right? He would mail me these little 12-week training plans, and I would just do what was on the training plan. And I spoke to him maybe once a year by phone, but the rest of it was just done by mail. And Rod was here and living with us at the time, so we could adapt things. And so that was a long answer to your question, Ron. But Rod was so much fun. I mean, it was never a dull moment with Rod. He
is a great guy. Well, we have one thing in common. You were the first American at New York that year in 83, and I was the first American at New York that year, behind Dixon and Smith.
That was not a great finish.
No,
it's
classic.
Still memorable. Yeah.
It is it's a classic for sure.
Yeah. So we must have been at the press conference together. We've crossed paths so many times.
We had to have.
Yeah. So that was a long answer to your question. And then I met John.
Benji and I were talking.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, Benji and I, we were talking yesterday, and he was telling me that the Twin Cities Marathon, you nearly got disqualified because Rod was, quote unquote, pacing you when he was out there encouraging.
Yeah. Benji, great memory. I actually
that was Amy remembered that, and then I remembered.
That's one of those things that it's such a bad memory that I had wiped my mind clean of it.
It was a total bullshit. I mean,
he was in street. Yeah. He and my husband were in street clothes.
Yeah.
They were escorted by a race official to various points on the course. And at one point, Rod ran beside me for like 10 paces.
Yeah. And just yelled at you.
Yeah. And by the way, I think it's fair to say he was not in the best shape that morning. He'd had a big night the night before. And
it wouldn't have been a beer night, would it?
And it was, but to be accused of cheating,
well,
it was probably
in front of you. He was alongside of you. I mean, it was just no one was being impeded. I mean, it was just, who else from the other people? Keep talking. I'll figure out who else was in the race.
Him, Rosenquist.
Yeah, and I was her coach, and I didn't have a problem with what was going on.
Yeah, and then I can't remember. Raunig, Debbie Raunig, I think was the third person who made the team, but nobody filed a protest. That was the weirdest part. There was no protest filed.
No.
The race director just decided he didn't like it.
Yeah.
And it was. I mean, I was literally physically ill to be publicly accused of cheating. It was so devastating, and nothing came of it. But it was really, other than I think they came up with better rules, right? And I don't think they even had a protest committee there. Had someone filed a protest, so I think well, it was TAC then.
Yeah.
I think they learned.
Connie Prince was third.
Oh, is that who was? Yeah, that's right. Okay.
And Kathy Toomey was fourth. I was thinking Toomey was there. Janice
Klecker was.
Well, Edel then, but Janice Klecker. She was fifth. Laura DeWald.
Yeah.
No, actually, no, that was Janice Edel was fifth. Janice Klecker's down there at ninth.
Yeah.
And there was a big purse. You got $20,000.
Yeah, it was a big purse. I came of age at like the very best time. I did a commercial in the early days, in 83, back when you had to put it into the trust fund and do all of that. But I mean, it was a great time to be a woman runner. The Avon, because the marathon was coming to the Olympics, there was the Avon circuit, the Bonnie Bell circuit. I mean, it was a fabulous time.
When did you
run? Of all of your marathons that you've run, what would have been your favorite? Which marathon stands? I mean, the Olympic trials and the Olympics, but besides those, what were your favorite races?
Well, I loved running New York. My favorite race of all, I have two favorite races, but they weren't marathons. Who loves the marathon? I mean, maybe Benji.
Well, Ron, I think liked the marathon too.
Ron, did you like it too?
That was exactly what after college, I had one goal, and that was to be to qualify for the Olympic trials and the marathon.
Yeah.
And somewhat like you, I didn't dream of rising to the level that I did. I just wanted to qualify for the trial, I got off the track. I ran in college, cross country and track, but I knew that the further I went, the better I became. And so the goal was to, I didn't want to look back when I was 65 and wonder if I could qualify for the Olympics.
Yeah. So of the races, I loved of the marathons. Then let's get back to the other races, because I never really ran on the track. I mean, I ran nationals at 10,000 when they were in Knoxville. When Kim Schnurfile, I qualified, so I thought I should run, and I got lapped by Kim Schnurfile, who was my good friend.
82, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was there too.
Yeah. And, but I never really, because I didn't come up running track, I didn't love the track. There was nothing, I mean, to me, a 10,000 on the track was torture. I like the up and down and the everything else. So of the marathons, I always loved New York. That was a great course for me because I like the up and down. And I like going through all those neighborhoods and seeing all the people. I found it really exciting. I loved the Olympic trials in 88 because I was so prepared for whatever the outcome was. I think I was mentally prepared. And I just felt like I was ready. And when the way the race unfolded was so perfect for me because I'm a much better downhill runner than uphill runner. And that course, you went down across the river. I think we crossed the river a couple times, but I remember specifically when we crossed the river at about 7 or 8, maybe 10 miles. I don't know. And then there was a uphill, not insignificant uphill out of the river, and nobody pulled ahead. Sylvia Mosqueda was, way out there, but we weren't paying no attention to her. And then we came out of the river and nobody pulled ahead. It was like they were looking at me. And I thought, well, if they're going to not push us. So then once we got to the top of the hill, I was having a momentary brain snap here. The gal who won, we got to the top of the hill And I said that we made a turn. Had a gradual downhill, and I said, let's put a move on here because we're starting to gap them a little bit. And I didn't know her, and she didn't know me, Margaret Gross. Yeah. And I said, let's put a move on here. And this is like at maybe 12, 14 miles, something like that. And she didn't say anything. And then I felt like a jerk, right? Because she obviously didn't want to talk, and she didn't want to work together. And, we go for a little bit, and she goes, I sure hope you know what you're doing. And we put a move on and just gapped the field at that point. And it all felt, and then, the last part's downhill, and I love running downhill. So it was a very happy experience for me. But the other races I loved Beta Break. I think I ran it 6 or 8 times. And my all-time favorite race is the Sydney City to Surf. And it's just, I love the course, love the people, and I had good success there. So
the Sydney to Surf, did that start on the Harbor Bridge?
No, it starts downtown, and you go through a tunnel out through all the bays, so Double Bay and all of that, and then you have a long climb up a hill, and you make a right turn, and then you pass a cemetery, and then you have a screaming downhill to Bondi. And it was the last, I think, 2 miles were just, and it was created after Beta Breakers. Somebody saw Beta Breakers and said, we should do this in Sydney. So there's costumes. It's a people's race, the way Beta Breakers is. And I love those kind of races because those were my people. I started out as, so, and because it had this screaming downhill, it was a little bit like Beta Breakers. If I was ahead when we got to the downhill, it was going to be very hard for somebody to catch.
Downhill running was not my forte.
Yeah,
I was an uphill.
That was my forte too. I was good downhill.
Yeah. Well, Rod Dix and I used to have so much fun because we would run these trails behind where we live. And he was a great uphill runner, but he wasn't that great downhill. And I would get ahead of him, and he would try and pass me. We would have these wonderful races down these crazy trails. And to this day, I love to run downhill.
Yeah, I was a better uphill runner. Yeah, much better. So tell me about Avenue of the Giants, because that was a race that I always wanted to run, never did run. I can only imagine running through the Redwood Forest.
Oh, it's beautiful. I actually ran it. I ran it twice, although the second time I was pacing somebody, and that we were just going to run the first half because the first time I ran it, it's beautiful. It's an out and back. I always call it like a bow tie, 2 out and backs. And you're in the shade. There's no crowds. It's beautiful. I remember the second time I ran it more specifically. So I mentioned Jim Plunkett, who was the Heisman Trophy winner at Stanford, and then went on to the Super Bowl. So
I had his autograph.
So
I have his autograph.
It was the year he was MVP in the Super Bowl, and his wife was running Avenue of the Giants. So a bunch of us went up in a Winnebago, and Jim said, well, let's run the first half, and then we'll wait for Jerry and we'll cheer for her. And my husband was running, a bunch of friends were running. So we run we're jogging the first half. Jim actually registered, I think. I'm sure I did not, because I was just going for a workout. And we got to the half, and Jim said, well, let's keep going. This is a guy who just was Super Bowl MVP. He's not in marathon shape. And he had this whole group of friends that it's a remarkable group of guys that played in the Rose Bowl together, the 71 Rose Bowl, and they've stayed really good friends. And I knew them. They're older than I am by 4 or 5 years. And, but my dad was involved in Stanford athletics, and Jim became very close with my dad. So anyway, we're out there, we get to the half, and he said, well, let's keep going. So we keep going, and, we're seeing, because it's out and back, we're seeing all the people that are running, and Jerry, his wife, and I'm sure I saw Bruce out there. But we get to about the 24-mile mark, maybe 25-mile mark, and we get passed by 3 women who were not the most athletic looking women. And I just looked at Jim and I said, I don't know about you, but I have some athletic pride. They are not beating me. Let's pick it up. So that's my memory of the race. And oh God, did we have some
Did he
laps.
finish the race?
Yeah, he did.
Did he finish?
Yeah.
Oh, because he wasn't a small guy.
No, he does not have a runner's body.
And
he
not a
doesn't.
marathon runner's body for sure.
Yeah. So
I met him up in Portland. He was a spokesperson for Coors.
Yes. Yeah, he had a Coors distributorship.
Okay.
For a while. Yeah.
So he was more than a spokesperson.
Sorry?
He was more than a spokesperson. He was...
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was doing a promotion up in Portland, and I had sports bars up in Oregon.
Yeah. Great guy. Still lives nearby. And I see him at Stanford things.
Only bad thing about him, he played for the Raiders. I'm a Chiefs fan.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I was just talking to a friend of his just the other day, and we were talking, he's not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame, no.
Which is really too bad, because he took his team when the first Rose Bowl he played in, first Super Bowl he played in, he had been cut by the 49ers, and he was picked up as like the fourth string quarterback by the Raiders, and then took them to the Super Bowl and was MVP at the Super Bowl, which is pretty remarkable when you think about it.